There is a reason why companies look at your credit to determine whether or not they're going to lend you some money. What social scientists have learned is that human behavior, while it is unpredictable, people generally do what they've always done. In other words, a person's history is going to reveal what they're going to do in the future. Whatever a person did in the past is going to be a good, strong indication of what they will do in the future. And this is why, for the life of me, my heart grieves. I don't understand why people keep making bad decisions when it comes to relationships and not paying attention to history. There is a long recorded history of certain groups of people doing evil to other groups of people. And while no every single person from that community is not evil and would not hurt a person, many will, and history has proven that. And when you ignore history, or when you trivialize it, or when you dismiss it, you are putting your life at risk. And this was the case, the very sad case of Ashlee Jenae. I heard the report now has indicated that she died by suicide, although some people still suspect it was homicide. But nevertheless, the Tanzanian government or police, they have decided that she died by her own hands and not by the hands of her fiance. And I didn't know much about this young lady because if you all know me, you know I don't have social media. I don't have TikTok or Instagram or any of these social media. I only have Facebook. And so when someone says this is an influencer, I don't even know who they are. I found out about her, unfortunately, after she had passed away tragically. And I want to talk about the spiritual lessons we can learn from her death. Every single day, God is giving us cautionary tales. And every day we have good examples and we have bad examples of humanity. And when we're left here, we are here to pay attention and to remember our history. Welcome to Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Cherie Hardy. I hope you are well. I hope you have joy and peace and love and everything you need in your life. Thank you for listening to Bad Thought Therapy. While I am on YouTube and I do create videos from slides, it is just so that I can be on YouTube. This podcast is meant to be listened to. I pray that this episode will empower you to make better decisions in your relationship. By the grace of God, I'm alive. I know what it's like to ignore red flags, to not remember history, to dismiss it or trivialize it or minimize it. And by the grace of God, I am still here. And I hope that this episode will save a life where a person will not enter a bad relationship or they will get out of one. Let's get started with these powerful spiritual lessons. God bless you and keep you. Again, my heart aches for the family of the young lady, Ashlee Jenae, who lost her life. The Tanzanian government has ruled her death a suicide. I recently saw a video on another YouTuber's channel, and it was a disturbing video where she was being chased by her fiance. I think she had on like a bathrobe, so she didn't have on any clothes. I think he had on a pair of shorts, and you could see in the video that she was running for her life from him, and he was chasing her. And at some point, he was able to capture her because he pivoted real quick. And then the video, wherever he captured her, that video was behind a wall, so we couldn't see what happened. All we do know is that the Tanzanian police reported that she and her fiance had a very bad argument. I'm going to talk about arguments and what they usually lead to, and that it was so bad that they had to be separated and they were put in separate rooms or separate villas. And the next thing you know is she's gone. She is gone, and he is alive. And then I'm not on social media other than Facebook. You guys, they say Facebook is for the old people, and I'm old. I'm over 60. So I heard that she had chosen this particular man basically because of his race, because she kept saying publicly that she thought that his race of men was better. And I'm going to try to get into that. And again, y'all, I just don't have the time to take notes. I wish I could. And at some point, I want to do podcasting full time. I'm a full time educator, and I'm going to get there at some point. But in the meantime, I just want to speak from my heart, and I want to talk about some powerful life lessons. Number one, and the biggest lesson of all, is you must never, ever, ever ignore your history. History is going to tell you what is likely going to happen in the present and in the future. There are groups of people, and they have a long, long recorded history of doing evil towards people of color. Now, I have to be the first to admit, not everybody from that community is like that. I've had some very good experiences. I've had bad experiences. And I've said this many times on this podcast. You have to try your best to judge people as individuals and not based on their race in general. Because in every single race, there are good people and there are evil people. There are people who do good things, there are people who do evil things in every single race. At the same time, though, there are groups, but there's one particular group. They have a long history of doing things that are brutal to people of color. And for the life of me, I do not understand. I marvel at this because even though this is not just history, it's what's happening today. You see these situations over and over and over again where people are being hurt just because of their race. And yet, people from our community still go and have relationships with these people. And many times, and it just keeps happening over and over again, there is loss. There's a loss of money. There's a loss of life. There's a loss of peace. There's a loss of everything. And yet they ignore history. They diminish it. They trivialize it. What you don't want to do is you do not want to ignore a person's history. That's going to tell you what's going to happen in your relationship. I don't know, I didn't know much about this story. It was trending in the news. And as a podcaster, I do use these current stories to kind of talk about spiritual lessons that we can learn. And I know from my own personal experience that ignoring a person's pattern of behavior can cause you to lose your life. And by the grace of God, I'm still here. However, there's not a day that goes by that I forget what could have happened. I still have a lot of nightmares. I'm very grateful that God has healed me, and I was able to work through some things spiritually. At the same time, I focus on myself because I believe that for the most part, no one can do anything to you in a relationship unless you allow it. So that's what makes it so painful, is that this young lady chose to be in a relationship where I am convinced that some things had happened before this incident. Most people don't just wake up one day and they have a really bad argument and someone dies, whether it's homicide or suicide. That rarely happens. Usually what happens is problems arise and then things begin to get worse. They are exacerbated and they are escalated because of arguments and continued disagreements. And it comes from one person or both people wanting somebody else to do something that they're simply not able to do. Now, my mind went in a very dark place when I saw this video. It was on the Willie D live podcast. Go to YouTube and find his Ashlee Jenae episode where he showed a video of this young lady being chased. And when I saw it, she didn't have on any clothes. She had on, I think, a robe. And my mind went in a very dark place because it went there because she didn't have on any clothes. And she was and he didn't have on any clothes either. And it was at night. And so it led to me to believe that somebody wanted somebody to do something that they weren't willing to do, or they just weren't going to do it that night at least. And that's the kind of thing that usually when you are not able to meet a person's expectations, their desires or their wants or whatever. They may even be considered them a need. When you're not able to do that, there's going to be conflict. And that's exactly what I think was happening here. She continued to stay in this relationship to what we call save face. She had publicly apparently elevated this man as if he was better because and I didn't, I didn't know about this, but these are her words. She basically said he was better simply because of his race. And it is sick, and it is of course it was delusional, and it is tragic, and it's just unfortunate that she didn't know her history, because history could have saved her. So number one lesson that I don't want you to forget is find out a person's history. Every time I see these stories of domestic violence or tragic cases of where there's injury, where there's harm, where there's death, it usually the perpetrator, has a history of already doing it. Those red flags cannot be ignored. When a person shows you that they can be violent, or they can get angry, and they can put their hands on you, or they can get to the point where they can get out of pocket, you cannot afford to ignore that. Because usually what's going to happen is something bad. Something bad. You're either going to be injured or you're going to be killed. And both. And then it doesn't just extend to you. I mean, it extends beyond you, because usually it also happens to the children or anybody else in the house. And we see this happening over and over and over again in the news. We see this happening over and over again in the news. And I think that people tell themselves the lie that it won't happen to them. And I just want to warn you, let that be a powerful spiritual lesson. If a person has a history of being violent, being irresponsible, getting angry easily, whatever the situation is, they're more than likely to continue that behavior. And when it escalates, when it always gets worse, because the person, especially if it's a power thing where they want you to do something and you won't do it, their frustration level is going to just increase. And most people don't have, they just won't walk away. I don't know why, but they won't walk away. And so they keep trying to make you do it, and it's just going to get worse. Or you keep trying to make them do it, and people are going to die. There's a case right now, I think it's California, where the lady ended up killing her husband and killing her 2 children. There are situations like that all over the country. It is heartbreaking because it doesn't have to happen. People are not learning how to be in relationships. Some people should never be in a relationship. I've talked about this before. Some people are unfit to be in a relationship with another human being, and yet they still want to be in a relationship. And so somebody's going to get hurt. So that's the number one most powerful lesson you can learn. Do not ignore history. History has taught us there are certain groups of people, and they have a higher propensity of doing evil towards you just because of your race. Don't forget that. Again, I want to emphasize, everybody from that race or from that group is not evil or would do evil. And that goes true in general. Just in general, this is what makes it hard, because you got to try to navigate through life and deal with people as individuals and judge a person's heart based on that person's character, not the external features. And again, that's hard to do sometimes. We have a rule in my house, and it is, you are guilty until proven innocent. There are some people, you're just guilty until proven innocent. Until you show me that you're not like the people that came before you, then you're guilty. And that attitude is there not to be hateful, but to protect ourselves. Because if you don't protect yourself, it's very easy to get God. And that's what happened to this young lady. And that is what is happening to so many other young men and young women. And so don't forget a person's history. Another powerful life lesson I also understand from the same podcaster, Willie D. He said that he talked to one of Ashlee Jenae's friends, and that the friend revealed that Ashlee Jenae had been having problems in this relationship before. this tragic end. And she kept it a secret. I'm sure she was trying to keep up pretenses. And I want to emphasize this life lesson: secrets will kill you. Secrets can get you off of this planet sooner than later. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to keep a secret. Whenever something is happening, you need to tell a person who is closest to you. And you need to let them know so that there is some kind of record, that there is a pattern of behavior. Unfortunately, she is gone. But I think what makes it even worse is that there's not going to be any justice. Let's say she was killed. The Tanzanian government has said it was a suicide, but let's say she was killed. Now this person is going scot-free. There is no justice from the law. There's going to be justice in the spiritual realm, maybe for her, but a lot of people don't have empathy for her because she went out of her way to talk badly about men in her own community. And she didn't have to do that. If she just wanted to date with whoever she wanted to date, that'd be one thing. But to then turn around and put people down in your own community, that is in itself is considered a crime and maybe even a sin. So I don't know if she hasn't gotten a lot of empathy. I don't know if she will get some prayers of justice. I still say that because she was young and she was clearly not aware of her history, she had made some very poor choices. And I'm really curious to know, whenever something like this happens, I always want to know about the parents, because I'm a mother too, and I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I work with young people. I always want to know, what did the mother say to her daughter about relationships? There are certain things that if you've been taught right, you won't even find yourself in, because you've been taught, when you see these signs, it's time to get out because this is what's going to happen. And that leads me to another powerful life lesson. I know that leaving a bad relationship is sometimes much more complex and harder than just talking about it. I know it's difficult sometimes. But if you stay in a toxic relationship, it is very likely you're going to be injured or killed. You're going to be maimed or killed. It's very, very likely. Any show, like I watched, I didn't finish it, but the series Evil Lives Here. And every time any crime show, you just watch them for the most part when it comes to domestic violence, all of these episodes have a common denominator. The relationship was bad. There was violence, there was irresponsibility, there was blame, all these negative things. And people just decided to stay in the relationship anyway, for whatever the reason. And again, I know from my own personal experiences what that can lead to. You have to get out. You have to make a decision if you want to live. Apparently her family said Ashlee Jenae was a vibrant young lady. She wanted to live. Well, if you want to live, you have to let go of toxic people. That's a powerful life lesson here. So thousands of people, so many people get killed just because they won't get out of the relationship. And they will rationalize why they have to stay in it. You don't. Now, getting out sometimes is a little bit more complex, because what scientists have shown and social scientists have learned is you actually increase your chances of possibly being killed when you try to get out or you get out, especially in the initial stages. So getting out may be a little bit more complex. You have to come up with a plan. You have to be strategic. And now there are support groups that can help you, but you have to get out if you want to live. If you want to die, God, that's sad. But if you want to live and you want your children to live and you don't want your family to have to bury you or be hurt by you or never see you again, please figure out a way to get out. It is much more complex. You really gonna have to get off of social media. It's gonna cost you a lot. So it's worth it though. Your life is worth it. Your children's life, it's all worth it. But you gotta get out, because if you stay in a bad relationship, something bad, there's a 99.9% chance that something bad is going to happen to you and maybe those people who love you. So you have to get out. This whole idea, and this is another life lesson, you are not going to change another human being. Before you get involved, don't forget this, before you get involved with the person, You need to try to find out exactly what that person wants from you. What is that person's expectations? What is it that they feel they need in the relationship? And here's what's going to happen. If they're honest, they're going to tell you exactly what they need. And I'm talking about, you need to know sexually, financially, everyday life. What is it that they need from you? Because if you cannot meet their expectation, it's not going to work. If somebody says, I expect for you to do A, B, C, D, and then you don't do A, B, C, D, then there's going to be this frustration. They're going to either cheat on you, they're going to either be frustrated and take it out on you. But if you can't meet their need, don't try to change their mind, because you're not going to change it. People can change, and people can be renewed, and they can be their value system, they can grow, they can become more righteous. But that takes a lot of work, and it cannot be done without the spiritual part, without God. It just cannot be done. They may have the desire, but without the Most High God working in their lives and them surrendering to God, it's not going to happen. So this man tells you, or you find out, okay, he likes this or he wants this. The moment you know I'm not gonna be able to do that. My body is sacred, or I feel like this is unnatural, or this goes against whatever. Once you find it out, you need to try to find a way to get out. You need to find a way to get out, because it's going to get worse. Again, going back to their mini shows, but the particular Eva Lives Here is about domestic situations. And over and over and over again, one of the common denominators, the men had an expectation of the women. And when the women wouldn't do it, sometimes, they would force it on the women. Sometimes after a while, they would end up going outside of the home to meet that need or to gratify themselves. And so the women then were spared, but outside the men was, killing and raping and doing whatever. You got to get out. The way you can avoid that, this is the number one life lesson. We get involved before we get to know. People have to try to get to know before they get involved. Find out that person's history. Find out they've been married and divorced. Find out what happened. You can find out now. There's so many cases where the person had a record. They had killed somebody. They had raped somebody. There's case after case like this. And the record was in plain sight. Now, some people didn't try to look at the record. There was one case I saw where the lady knew the man's record. The man had a record for hurting children. She chose to still stay with this man and defend this man. And you know what happened, y'all? She's no longer with us. It's tragic. It's common. It's a tragic thing, and it should not happen. Again, people have shown you the bad behavior. You cannot expect them to change. They are not going to change. And I've seen that happen too so many times over and over again. People, they think, okay, if I just pray and they beg God to sort of get this man to do whatever they think they need him to do or he should do, it is not going to happen unless that man himself wants to surrender his life to the Most High God and be righteous. And many men, they're not focused on being righteous. They're focused on power. They're focused on gratifying themselves physically and sexually, and they're not focused on those things. And so you're not going to change them. You have to focus on how do you change yourself. So this is unfortunate, but Ashlee Jenae's death can be a powerful tool to save lives. Again, number one, we're going to go over the lessons before I end the podcast. Number one, never forget history. I just did a podcast about what happened in South Carolina where the young man was running from the store owner. He was running from them, the store owner and his son. He got shot and killed running from, and the jury found this man, the killer, not guilty. Whew. Now, in this case, I am praying for justice to prevail. It might not have prevailed in a court of law, But God's court, it will prevail. That man that killed that young man running, and apparently this young man had a long history. The store owner had a long history of altercations with people from the community. I saw a video myself of this man fighting girls, teenage girls, y'all. It was bad. And the fact that he was found not guilty is egregious, but that's okay. That's okay because God is going to move in this case and justice will prevail. What is the point? Don't forget a person's history. Do all you can to get to know people before you get involved. That can possibly save your life. And then once you know the history, don't ignore it. Don't minimize it. I don't know what it is, but some people have this complex where they think they're so special that even though he's been violent to all his other girlfriends, some kind of way in their mind they think, oh, well, he wouldn't be violent with me. Or he couldn't keep a regular job to save his life, but some kind of way he's going to get with you and he's going to just all of a sudden start working and being responsible. No, you will know a person's history and you need to get to know before you get involved. Another thing is find out what a person needs from you. Don't get involved with them first. You have to learn how to spend some time getting to know people. When you're desperate, you're not in a good position to date because desperation in dating leads to death. I'm going to say that again. If you're in a desperate state and you're trying to date, you're not going to make good decisions for yourself. And not only are you risking your own life, but you're risking your children's lives if you have any. You're risking your family's life, your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad. Every single day, people are being slaughtered because of these relationships, and you're getting with unstable people. But you need to get to know what a person wants. And you know in your heart whether or not you can do it. You know that. And do not get in. And you know what? I say just tell people, look, I can't do it. I don't have anything against you. I hope you find whatever it is you need. But I know that I can't meet the expectations you have. And you have to try not to get involved. The other thing is that you cannot ignore those red flags because there are always going to be red flags. Again, going back to Evil Lives Here, when the show opens up, every episode opens up, it'll make a little blurb about something and then it'll say at the bottom, and there were signs. There are always signs that you're going to be hurt or die in a relationship. Always. There are always signs that a person is never going to keep a job. They're never going to be responsible. There are signs. And if you ignore those signs, those red flags as they call them, you are setting yourself up to be hurt and possibly unalive. And you got to make a decision. I don't know if people, and this is sad to say sometimes, that they just don't want to live. If that's it, I don't know. But because it's like you see all the signs and then it's like you walk towards the fire, you walk right into the fire anyway. That's insanity. That's what it is. The other thing is you have to figure out a way to leave. And I know that leaving sometimes is easy for certain people and sometimes it's not easy to leave. But if you stay, you are increasing your chances of being hurt and being killed, and you're increasing the chances that somebody in your family will be hurt or killed. You have to find a way to leave, and you try to leave peacefully. You try to leave with respect, but you got to find a way to leave. And I know that they say that usually when people are hurt or killed, it is when they're trying to leave. And so you got to figure out a way though to leave, because if you stay, it's guaranteed. It is guaranteed. The other thing is you got to face reality. Everybody is not supposed to be in a relationship. Some people are unfit to be in a relationship. Naturally, as humans, we want this connection. We want emotional connections. We want physical connections. We want these things. But most people do not grow up knowing how to be in a relationship, and they're not trying to find out how. How do I be in a healthy relationship with another human being? Most people are not getting those lessons, and they're not trying to find out how to do that. So you got people, they're together, and when one person or both people can't have their way, all hell breaks loose. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. At the end of the day, this is something that I taught My daughter, I teach this to my students. When you start looking at these different stories in the news, at the end of the day, a person is doing evil or just acting out because they can't have their way. They want something that they can't get. Just recently at Disney World, there was a lady. She went to a restaurant and she wanted the tables, two different tables, to be put together. I guess the restaurant told her that they couldn't do it. And she had a tantrum and she attacked one of the workers there. She did a whole bunch of stuff. She just had a tantrum. And this was in front of her children. And I just thought, wow, her children had to see this, and it just makes it so much worse. What's ironic is that a couple of weeks ago, one of my former students, she became an ordained minister, and we went to the ceremony. And we faced the same situation. We went to a restaurant afterwards, and the restaurant would not put these tables together so we could all eat together. Nobody had a tantrum. It was a little, disheartening that we all couldn't sit together, but we let it go. We ate. We had a wonderful time. Sometimes we had to get up and walk around and see people. The manager would simply not put those tables together, and so it's not a problem. But many people, if they can't have their way, they are going to act out, and so you can find that out in advance. You can already know when a person is going to be that way, because again, if you get to know before you get involved, you can save lives. Last but not least, do not keep secrets. I'm not saying you got to go on social media. Now, there's a case where this particular singer or radio personality, his wife or his girlfriend, has gone to social media and she's shown her bruises, and apparently he was cheating on her. I don't know if she confronted him and he punched her or whatever. It looks pretty bad. But tell somebody what is happening. And you gotta be careful who you tell, because you want to talk to people who have good sense and who will use wisdom and be reasonable and tell you how to get out of that situation. But do not keep secrets. I do know what it is, because it's a deep psychological reason, but people have to pretend like everything is going well when it's not. Nobody's life is perfect. Every single person has a problem. And social media is kind of set up where I'm going to show you all this good stuff is happening, but who's being deceived? Nobody, because everybody knows everybody's got something going on, some kind of challenge, some kind of issue, some kind of problem. It's fake. It's not real. And so when you see, people try to create these illusions that everything is perfect when everybody knows it's not. And so when you keep secrets and you don't tell people what's happening, people are not able to help you or guide you and maybe give you some good advice or give you some money to help you get. I don't know. But don't keep secrets. And that's what apparently Ashlee Jenae did. She kept these secrets. Years ago, there was a story. I forgot what show it was. This was a very, very, very tragic story of a lady whose husband had tried to kill her. She told everybody that she had a horsing accident. They lived on a farm and they had horses, and she had some kind of riding accident. She fell off the horse or something. She did tell one friend, though, if something happens to me, it's my husband. Because she did not fall off of a horse. Her husband had tried to kill her. And she stayed with this man. Well, you know how this story ends. Eventually, he did succeed in killing her. And when she died, it was her friend. The only way that case broke, because the way he did it, he made it look like an accident. The only way the police were able to solve this case and lead them back to the husband was because her friend had said, she had told her friend what really happened. She said, if something happens to me, I want you to know that it's my husband. And that's why they were able to solve the case. Without her telling that secret, justice for her would have never been given. And that's what's unfortunate. And here's another thing. When people do things to you, it's because you allow them to. When I was in my early to mid 50s, I went through something, I call it the midlife awakening. Okay. Because I don't know what it is. You start having flashbacks and you start remembering things, and you remember what people have done. But here's what you also remember. You remember what you did, and you remember what you allowed. And that is why it's very critical for you to have a strong sense of self-worth and know who you are. And you can't just know who you are without being connected to the Most High God, because we don't just fall from the sky. We actually come through people. We are from God, and we come through people. And when you know who you came from, which is the Most High God, that God created you, and that He wants you to be treated with respect and love and dignity, you cannot let yourself be treated any kind of way. And that's what happened to me. I started looking back over my life, and the focus was no longer on a person who had done all these evil things to me. The focus became, this is what I allowed this person to do. This person would have been totally disempowered if I had not allowed him to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I had not let him in and out of my life over and over again. I did this to myself. And that's what you have to do. If you do not know the Most High God, I want to encourage you to take the first and the most powerful step, and that is make that connection through communication. We call it prayer. You must find a quiet place and you must say to God, I'm tired. I want to surrender to you. I don't want to die. I don't want to be hurt. I want to have the best life I can have. And I'm here to tell you, as a witness, you won't have it without Him. So you have to say, God, I want this life, and I know I can't have it without you. Please reveal yourself to me. Please help me to see what you want. Heal my heart, heal my mind, heal the wounds that I've experienced so that I can let go and begin to have an elevated life. And I'm a witness to you that God will heal you and He will answer those prayers, and you must surrender to Him, and He will tell you who you're worth. And here's the thing about worth. You have to know your worth, and somebody else may not know it. You know, I used to talk about this bowl years ago. This is over 20 years ago. I was reading the newspaper one day, and I saw a story. And if you've been listening to Bad Thought Therapy, I've told this story numerous times. But it was a news article about a man who went to an estate sale. He bought a bowl for a couple of bucks. Turns out that bowl was worth in the millions. And I remember asking my students, because I would use these news articles to teach lessons to my students. I would say, who would sell a bowl that is worth millions for a couple of bucks? And they knew the answer. A person who does not know your worth. Person did not know the worth of that bowl, because they would never sell a multi-million-dollar bowl for a couple of bucks. And here's a life lesson. You must know your worth, because many people do not know it. And they'll treat you just like the person who sold that bowl. You can be beautiful. You can be loyal and giving and kind and generous and faithful and loving, all those wonderful things. If a person does not know who you are because they're not connected to the one who made you, they cannot treat you the way the Creator wants you to be treated. It's nothing you can do. I've seen it. Beautiful women, faithful women, loyal women, good women been killed, been taken off of this planet, and they thought they loved the person, but that person did not know her worth. And that's what you got to understand. You got to know your worth, because let me tell you what's going to happen. When you know your worth, you won't let people treat you any kind of way. You're not able to feel comfortable. You're not able to settle in these toxic relationships. When you feel the love of God, you need love, and you need it, and you demand it from everyone. And this is the thing, we don't have to hate on people. You know, I learned I don't hate on anybody. I don't have anything against anybody. I'm just not going to allow myself to be involved with anybody who does not have basic respect for me. And I live and let live. That's my motto, live and let live. And you got to do that. But you got to know who you are. When you surrender to God and you begin to pray to God and you begin to ask God for answers, and when you get quiet, God will give you the answers. He will tell you how to get out of this relationship. He will tell you what and when, and He will provide a way of escape for you. But it is not worth staying in a toxic relationship for you to lose your life when God wants to give you life and give you life more abundantly. He wants you to have peace. He wants you to have joy. God wants you to have love. He wants you to be in a relationship where you are respected, where you are honored, where you're cared for. And I know that's hard to find. And until you can find it, you may have to have a season of singleness. And guess what? You are protected. I live in Atlanta, and in Atlanta you have a lot of men who are bisexual and are really they're pansexual because they would just do anything with anybody or anything. And what happens is, though, this is the issue. That's not that they're that way. Or some people could argue that the focus is more on that when it really should be on the fact that because they're not honest. See, if they said up front, I'm this way, I'm that way, you would have a fair chance of protecting yourself, but they're not going to do that. So what happens is a lot of women are getting STDs, they're getting HIV, and they're dying, and a lot of men are dying from AIDS. AIDS is still killing people because what happens is these people live these secret lives, and they don't tell anybody that they really prefer to be with, someone of their same sex, or, it's all kinds of stuff going on here out here now, but they really don't want to be with a woman. But because our community, still puts a lot of pressure on men to look like they're men, when many of them are not, they're lying. And so women are dying. Women are getting killed. It's another thing is that when women find out that they are that way, and then they threaten to expose these people, they end up being unalived. And that's another big issue here when, secrets are coming out. That's why we got to stop keeping secrets. You got to stop keeping a secret, and people have to be honest. But when a person doesn't care for you, they will pretend like they love you, or they will pretend like they want to be with you when they really want to be with somebody else. So they want to be with a man. They can't just live out that way for whatever the reason. They know their family may, excommunicate them or alienate them, so they don't want to do it. But the secrets hurt, and this is why you have to know your worth, and you have to be willing to say, I'll be single. Because what singleness will do, it will protect you from all of this craziness that's out there. It's just, in Atlanta, it's crazy. And people are talking about it more. It is just crazy out here. But you really, you're risking your life. You really are risking your life at this point for so many reasons. But my point is that a relationship with God gives you peace. When you are with the Most High God and He loves you, and you know that He wants the best for you, you're at peace. You don't have that desperation to try to hook yourself up with somebody else, because especially here in this particular city, it's a risk. It really is a risk. And my daughter, I remember the first time she used this term, she was talking about homosexual. And I had never heard the term, and I just got tickled. But you got that going on too. You got people that they don't really have a job. They can't keep a job. They're not going to work. They're not going to keep a job. And they need a place to stay. And they're looking for that. They're always trying to find somebody. And then once they get in your space and they want to take over your space, even though they're not working, and then hold you hostage, and it just becomes ugly. And I've seen that happen up close and personal. And so what you want to do is you want to just not get involved. Trust and believe. It's okay to be alone and to not be in a relationship, and you're protected. It's okay. I know it's not easy, but with the help of the Most High God, you can do that because you understand that He is protecting you. So there were so many life lessons there. I hate that this young lady lost her life. I hate that she was delusional about being in a relationship with someone outside of her race. I just hate that she thought it was going to be better. And of course, it's not necessarily so. And it's very unlikely that it will be for so many reasons. Again, I marvel at people because I don't know how you just totally forget history. History will teach you everything you need to know. That's the number one life lesson, number one spiritual lesson. Do not trivialize, minimize, ignore history. History will tell you what's going to happen today and what will likely happen tomorrow. And there's a long history, recorded history of what certain people would do and won't do. I'm not saying everybody from that community will, but you need to pay attention to your history. Please, please, before you get involved, try to get to know people. Try to find out about those people, but more so find out what they want. Because, I'm over 60 now, but if I could do it all over again, that would have been the number one thing I would have focused on. Like, what is it that you expect of me? Because I can already know up front, I'm not going to be able to do it, or I'm going to be able to do, and that's causing a lot of people their lives, because they get with the person wants them to do certain things, and they may do it for a while if they feel like, okay, if I do this and I comply, I'm going to get something. But you can't maintain that, especially if what they're asking for is unnatural and it goes against your body. It goes against how God made your body and what certain things of your body on your body are for. You have a lot of that going on too, weird stuff like that as well. So I want you to live long. I want you to have peace. God wants you to have it. The Most High God is real, and all you have to do is take the first step, and the most powerful step is surrender. If you seek His face, if you seek God for answers, God is real. I can't explain everything. I just know that man did not make the sun, and man did not make the moon. He did not make the planets. There is something greater than humanity. And that being that we use, the old Celtic word, we call him God. That being is real. And all I know is that when you surrender your life to God, everything will change in a good way. Will your life be perfect? No. Will everything go as you think you want it? Absolutely not. But you will have a peace that surpasses all understanding. You will have a joy that the world just simply cannot give to you. And it's almost inexplicable. You can't rationally, you can't understand it, but it's real and it's there. God loves you. He wants you to be loved. And if it is in your calling to be married, you will. If it is not in your destiny to be married, you won't. And that's okay. And that's what, I got to do a whole podcast on that. You got to make peace, because God, whatever you're not having, if it's meant for you to have, God's going to give it to you. If it's not meant for you to have, you won't have it. And it's okay. Well, this ends this episode. Peace and abundant blessings. Beautiful people, thank you for listening to Bad Thought Therapy. Again, thank you for tuning in to Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Sheree Hardy. Don't forget to like this video if you thought it helped you, and please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.